Have you ever had that feeling? The big exam is tomorrow, but the call of a good time is just too strong to resist. Well, let me tell you a story about 4 friends who found themselves in that exact situation. Meet Alex, Ben, Chris, and Dave. They were inseparable, the best of friends, but they shared one tiny flaw. They absolutely hated studying. As you can probably guess, when their final exams rolled around, they did what they did best: they procrastinated. The night before the big test, instead of burying their noses in textbooks, they decided to throw a massive party. They figured, hey, we'll cram in the morning. What could go wrong? The next morning, as the sun streamed in, so did a wave of panic and regret. Hungover and completely unprepared, they knew there was no way they could pass the exam. But instead of accepting their fate, they hatched a plan. A very clever plan, or so they thought. They marched into the dean's office, putting on their most sorrowful, exhausted faces. Alex, the designated spokesperson, began their tale of woe. "Dean," he said, his voice trembling slightly, "we are so sorry we missed the exam. We had every intention of being here. You see, we went to a friend's wedding out of town last night. We left early to get back and study, but then the unthinkable happened." He paused for dramatic effect, making sure the dean was hanging on his every word. "On a dark, deserted road, our car got a flat tire. We had no spare, no cell service. We had to push the car all the way back to town. We just got back a few minutes ago. We are exhausted, but we're willing to take the exam right now if you let us." The other 3 friends nodded in unison, their faces etched with fake exhaustion. The dean, a wise old man with a twinkle in his eye, listened patiently. He stroked his chin and looked at the 4 disheveled students. After a moment that felt like an eternity, he smiled kindly. "All right, boys," he said. "I understand. Things like that happen. You can take the Ray test in 3 days. Use this time to rest up and study." The 4 friends could hardly believe their luck. They profusely thanked the dean and practically skipped out of his office. It worked! It actually worked! They cheered once they were out of earshot. They felt like geniuses. They had not only dodged a bullet, but also bought themselves 3 extra days to study. And this time, they didn't waste it. They locked themselves away, ditching parties for textbooks, and studied harder than they ever had before. They memorized formulas, reviewed notes, and quizzed each other relentlessly. By the time the Ray test day arrived, they were confident. They were ready. They were going to ace this exam. They walked onto campus with a newfound swagger. They entered the dean's office, ready to be assigned a classroom. The dean greeted them with the same kind smile. "Good morning, gentlemen," he said. "I'm glad to see you're all rested and ready. I've arranged for you to take the test in separate classrooms to ensure there is no cheating." This made sense to them. Standard procedure. They weren't worried. They knew the material inside and out. They were escorted to 4 different rooms, each taking a seat at a desk. An exam paper was placed face down in front of them. The proctor announced, "You may begin." They flipped over the paper, their pens poised, ready to unleash their knowledge. But what they saw made their blood run cold. The exam paper was almost entirely blank. There were only 2 questions. Question 1, your name. 1 point they scribbled their names, a sense of dread creeping in. This was too easy, too simple. Where were the complex equations, the essay prompts? Then, they read the second question. Question 2. Which tire of the car burst? 99 points of front left front right cack rear left rear right. Silence. Complete and utter silence fell over the 4 separate rooms. Their minds raced. Which tire? They had never discussed it. It was a lie, a detail they hadn't sought to coordinate. What were the odds they would all choose the same one? 1 in 4? 1 in 64 if you consider all 4 of them. Their brilliant plan, their hard work, all of it came crashing down because of one tiny, overlooked detail. The moral of this story is simple, but powerful. You might think you're smart. You might even be able to talk your way out of a tough spot. But always remember, there's a good chance someone out there is smarter and more experienced than you. Honesty and hard work might seem like the longer paths, but in the end, they are the only paths that won't leave you with a flat tire you can't explain. So, next time you're tempted to take a shortcut, think of our 4 friends and their fateful exam. Sometimes, the most brilliant plan is just to do the work. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content just like this. We'll see you in the next video.